Hi guys, this is gsno.com and I'm here with the Motorola Moto Z3 Play for a full review. This is one of those modular phones, a high mid-ranger. You can see the pins at the back, you can attach modules to it, and it comes with a glass back and glass front. It's pretty slim and elegant. Perhaps the slimmest phone I've tested over the past year. So Motorola Moto Z3 Play. It's got a clean Android on board and the price tag is around $399 right about now. Now on the design front, we're dealing here with a very stylish phone but also very wide, so it's going to be a bit of a pain to use it a single hand unless you really have long fingers and a big hand. So a metal frame clearly in between, protruding camera because of course we have a slim waistline of 6.75 millimeters. Nowadays very few phones go below 8 millimeters. This one goes below 7 millimeters. It weighs a crazy 156 grams, and which is excellent for a 6-incher, and it's got a premium build and feel for sure. The backside is basically like a mirror covered with glass. I have to say that it has increased in size from the predecessor. The Motorola Moto Z2 Play was a 5.5-incher and this one is a 6-incher basically. So premium feel, premium build, 2.5D glass, gently curved on the sides, and 6000 series aluminum. The hues in here is deep indigo and it's pretty but too white for my taste, and the buttons aren't very comfy. This one here isn't very easy to use, and the back side kind of smudges and draws grease and fingerprints. Now as far as the screen is concerned, it's a 6-incher, I keep repeating that, but it's no regular 6-incher, it's a Super AMOLED with a 2160 over 1080 pixel resolution and a pretty modest, I would say 79% screen to body ratio, so we expect it a bit better in that regard. Gorilla Glass 3 protection, 18:9 aspect ratio, and now let's check out our typical video sample and see what's what. Okay, so this is our typical test video. Here we go, filling up the screen with a pretty solid level of brightness, very well calibrated colors, also very vivid, deep blacks, good contrast even in the sunlight, and wide view angles. So basically your typical quality Super AMOLED panel. Now we also did a bunch of tests on the screen and let's see what came out. So this is the pixel arrangement, it's of the Pental Matrix variety, and then we did a brightness test achieving a high level of 587 lux units, which is pretty impressive. It beats the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus actually, the iPhone XR and the Google Pixel 2 XL, so actually not bad. It stays below the iPhone X and the Motorola Moto Z2 Play and it's crazy 640 lux. Now the screen itself can be set up in more than one ways. So we go here, display, brightness, adaptive brightness, there's a color mode. Color can be set to warmer or cooler, standard or vibrant. Also there's the font size, display size and screensaver, and that's about it. Now let's talk about other features. I'm going to start with the processor. It's a Qualcomm Snapdragon 636 and the GPU is the Adreno 509. We also have 4 GB of RAM, 64 GB of storage, micro SD card slot, no trace of lag. Of course the clean and stock software also helps. It's a pretty fluid experience. You can easily play Asphalt 9 on it. We play Riptide GP Renegade. I'm thinking you can also play PUBG Mobile, of course. Let's turn down the volume a bit. Okay, here we go. Riptide, still kicking it after all these years as our benchmark game. The guys of Vector have a new game now. It's called Beach Buggy Racing 2 and it's quite cool as well. The important thing that matters is that you can run Asphalt 9 on it and also PUBG Mobile with no problem. You can already see the excellent frame rate and level of quality displayed by this handset. Of course we didn't only play stuff and give you our findings in the day-to-day usage, we also did a bunch of synthetic benchmarks. I'm talking about Antutu and the other ones, so here we go. Okay, so the benchmarks are here, let's check them out. Let's have a look at the results achieved in these tests. So this one is Antutu 6. In this test we score past the Samsung Galaxy A8 2018 and also the Asus Zenfone Max Pro M1. We stayed below the Asus Zenfone Max Pro M2, which by the way is being reviewed soon, and also below the Zenfone 5, which should have the same CPU as this phone. Now here comes Antutu 7. Here we beat the Nokia 5.1 Plus, we beat the Motorola Moto G6 Plus, but we stayed below the Asus Zenfone 5 again and the Xiaomi Mi A2. We also did the famous Geekbench. Here we go. These are the scores. We took into account the multi-core one. Here we actually beat the Asus Zenfone 5 and the Xiaomi Mi A2, but scored below the Huawei Mate 20 Lite and the iPhone 7, which is by no means a new phone. We also did a bunch of graphical tests like Slingshot, and in Slingshot we beat Zenfone 5 and the Motorola Moto X4. We stayed below the Huawei Mate 10 Lite and the AllView Sol X5 Pro. Basically, we're about close to being on par with Asus Zenfone 5, either on top of it or below it, and clearly below some Snapdragon 660 CPU handsets. Now let's talk about the temperature. Okay, so when it comes to temperature, let's see what we got here. So I'm going to start off with this one. 29.4 degrees Celsius. Actually quite impressive. This was achieved in GFX Bench, which is a pretty intensive benchmark. Now in the game Riptide, you saw before, 34.1 degrees Celsius. Actually not bad. It's one of the cool phones. When I say cool, I mean low temperature. We also did a heat map test, and you're going to see it once we're done with the text review, but believe me, heat dissipation is a-okay here. On the battery front, you think that 3000 mAh doesn't impress anyone. Well, the predecessor of this phone were unwitting battery phones, believe it or not. So this one continues in the same vein. 3000 mAh were put to the test, and the result is pretty mind-blowing. Let's actually find the result here. So basically, we achieved 12 hours and 42 minutes of continuous HD video playback. It beats Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus, the Asus ROG phone. It stays below the Motorola Moto Z3 Play, which was even crazier, but only by 12 minutes, and below the iPhone XR. We also did a continuous usage test in the famous PC Mark and achieved 10 hours 42 minutes. It's better than the Google Pixel XL, Galaxy A8 2018, or the Pocophone F1. Still stays below the Nokia 7 Plus and also below the Motorola Moto G6 Play and the Galaxy A9 2018. The charging was pretty solid for me, 1 hour and 25 minutes. It's okay, it's the equal of the Galaxy S6 Edge, which was a record back in the day. The best thing about the charging, after 1 hour of juicing up, you're at 89%, and that's great. Now the battery settings are typical: battery saver, adaptive brightness, and battery optimization. On the acoustics front, you may have noticed there's no audio jack at the bottom, at the top. There's also no speaker inside. That's because Motorola, as usual, is relying on the earpiece to deliver its music to its paying customers. So I'm going to have to put this to the test using Google Play Music, which by the way has a pretty minimalistic equalizer. And here we go. Equalizer, audio effects, and only a few slight tweaks. Basically extreme bass, bass punch, balance, brilliant treble, vocalizer and off, and that's about it. Now let's actually listen to some tunes, and here we go. Okay, so some of my impressions, I'm pretty impressed by this, even though it's no stereo speaker. The good thing is that you won't cover it in landscape mode. There's no reason to actually cover this speaker, so I'm happy with that. Other than that, pretty loud, solid bass, solid all the notes, no vibration, no distortion. So generally happy with the result. You saw in the unboxing a pair of headphones. Of course, they hook up via special USB Type-C to 3.5mm adapter. They're comfy and loud, above average basically. We here at gsn1.com use what we like to call a decibel meter, and we use that to measure the power of the speaker. And here we achieved 86.5 decibels with an acoustic sample. It beats the Samsung Galaxy A8 2018 and the Google Pixel 2 XL, but scores below the Asus ROG phone and the Samsung Galaxy A3 2017. Now we also did another test, this time with Riptide, the game from before. We achieved 98.5 decibels. So these are decibels, not degrees, in case you're wondering about some things like that. So 86.5 and then 98.5 decibels. It beats Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus, the Xiaomi Mi A2 and the Apple iPhone XS Max, which is actually not bad. Still, the Zenfone 5 and Xperia XA2 are louder. Now this has been it with the speaker, reasonably happy with it, and also the headphones. Let's talk camera. So things are simple. Rather at the front, there's an 8 megapixel shooter here with an f2.0 aperture, 84-degree lens, so 8 megapixels, and a combo at the back, 12 plus 5 megapixels. The 5 megapixel sensor is used for depth capture. We have a dual tone flash, zero shutter delay, 4K, bokeh, spot color, cinematograph, and f1.7 aperture for the main 12 megapixel camera. Now the camera UI is all stock, pretty fast. It has AR stickers, Google Lens, and text scanning. Now the actual camera, well, it's going to be an interesting gallery because there was a problem with the weather. We caught a weather that involved a lot of freezing rain, and the aftermath can be seen in the photos. Now, aside from the clouds and the mountains of ice, I have to say that the colors are not bad. I'm talking about the colors of the toys. This is the highest level of zoom, and of course it's not impressive, but if you keep it at 3x or 2x zoom, you'll be moderately happy. Solid colors, pretty well calibrated, but the dynamic range of the background isn't always satisfying as the sky gets mostly white most of the times. Okay, more captures here. The selfies felt a bit dark. You have to pick a better lit area to get proper results, and after I properly calibrated the camera and the camera's position, selfies started being a bit more okay. So you can clearly see the difference. There was clearly no light here, but then things got actually better. So pretty okay skin texture, eye texture, hair texture, but I've seen better on other devices. I also feel that sometimes the background behind me is too well focused and my face isn't exactly focused enough to deliver a proper capture. So all in all, not bad selfies, but I've seen better on other phones out there. And sometimes they can get really dark if you don't have the proper lighting. Now, believe it or not, I was pretty impressed by the portrait bokeh shots. Actually very impressed. I would compare them with the Huawei Mate 20 Lite and the Huawei P20 Lite, and that's no small feat. Several more shots. In general, details were quite fine. You can see me zooming here a lot, and you can zoom on the PC and you'll also be happy with the result. So that's about it. Aside from the weird dynamic range thing and the white sky in the background, which is corrected with the HDR shots, you'll be happy with the results. Pretty nice panorama as well. 8888 pixels over 976 pixels. So that's basically it when it comes to the daytime capture. Okay, so my conclusion regarding all of these pictures, I would have to say that this is a pretty solid Sony Xperia XA2 rival, even a rival of the Nokia 7 Plus and the Galaxy A8 2018. It does catch less light than them, and it can fight on par with the Motorola Moto Z3 Plus. That's my impression. So it's an equal of the Motorola Moto Z3 Plus. You can also fight the Huawei Mate 20 Lite, and that's at the level it's at. I also feel it surpasses the Huawei P20 Lite. Now, these are daytime shots. Let's skip straight to the nighttime. At first, the first part of the gallery was affected by a serious layer of fog, so the circumstances were not the best. In spite of that, pretty nice texture of the water on top of objects. Pretty big halos, not a bad zoom, to be honest. The flash is too white, sometimes blue, and the shots were ghostly. It cannot handle the light okay, as you can see in that firm. But at some point the fog lifted and the shots became a bit better. You'll notice that instantly when it comes to the street light halos. Now, here we go. These are clearer shots, of course, no more fog. And once again, the shots feel darker than I've seen on many other phones, but at the same time, pretty clear, nicely calibrated colors, good details, and even a good zoom. So not bad. Even though in the distance, if you really zoom in, you'll see that things are grainy and not very clear. So it's only 12 megapixels in the end. I would say it performs about on par with the Motorola Moto G6 series, and that's that. Now, if you want to talk about the videos, I'm going to resort to the MX Player app because it's easier to navigate. And here we go. So 7 videos, it is easy to discern between them. Basically, it's MP4, Full HD, 30 frames per second, 17 mega per second, and a pretty okay microphone throughout the capture. Okay, so let's turn this down a bit, do a proper calibration. I'm happy with the colors. I'm also happy with the focus, the clarity. The reds feel a bit too bright. The zoom is a bit underwhelming. And once again, the sky felt too wide. The exposure change was actually kind of nice. Okay, and we move further. I have to say that the 4K capture we took was actually pretty impressive. A bit shaky, I know, this capture here. And also too white in the background. If I was complaining about the darkness of the shots, this is actually too white if you look at the background alone. So at least we're left with accurate focus and accurate colors, except for the over enthusiastic reds. Now we were walking and filming, and this is the stabilization test. Okay, so there's some shaking, but without the annoying flicker of the image I've seen on so many mid-range phones. Yes, I know that the details in the distance are pretty weak, but not bad, to be honest. Not a bad electronic stabilization. I've seen worse. We also tested a selfie camera, and this one is rather solid. And I remember the Motorola Moto G6 and G6 Plus also being solid. I know the background flickers behind me between light and darkness, but the face always checks out. Okay, so basically it films a bit better than your average Huawei phone, and at the same time is not exactly on par with the Nokia 7 Plus, but it can maybe fight a last gen Xperia XA2, for example. Okay, so this has been daytime capture. Let's see the low light, affected by fog, but still pretty nice colors, pretty nice highlight of the lamps, and amazing focus, to be honest. Didn't expect it. I actually criticized the focus during the day, but somehow it delivered during the night, which means focus is actually okay. We were walking, and of course stabilization was poor. It's the nighttime, it's fog, so circumstances. In the end, a forgettable experience, but you probably remember the clarity and the fact that the 4K will definitely check out. So you will not be disappointed if you film in 4K and stick to crisper colors and selfie videos. Okay, I think that's that. Let's go to the web browser, which is Chrome, good old pre-installed Chrome. Let's access gsnhome.com, which is done, I would say, reasonably fast. This is our website. And the benchmarks of the browser were pretty decent, and this is the input that we're doing with the stock keyboard, which also has swipe. And now it's time to talk about the connectivity. So on the connectivity front, we got an USB Type-C port at the bottom. We don't have audio jack. I have a 4 microphone system, keeping things in check. I already noticed from the camera that the microphone was pretty hot. What else? We have the adapter from USB Type-C to audio jack on board. We have dual SIM, nano SIM card slots, NFC, GPS, AGPS, GLONASS, Beidou, also Wi-Fi A, B, G, and AC, Bluetooth 5.0, and of course 4G LTE with pretty solid speeds. The calls were loud and clear, no objections about that. I'm guessing the 4 microphones have something to do with that. And come on, okay, let's see the results of the speed test. So on 4G we got a pretty impressive 156 mega per second download, 62.5 mega per second upload, so that's nice. On Wi-Fi 233 mega per second downloads, 25.1 mega per second uploads. I would say things are pretty fast in the connectivity department. After all, Motorola invented the mobile phone, so what did you expect? So that's that in the connectivity. Let's talk about the software. Now, as far as the software is concerned, we're dealing here with Android 8.1.0 Oreo in a stock version. We got the Google feed on the leftmost side of the screen. We got a typical experience here that involves multitasking via a carousel, and we can also do the split screen thingy if you really want. And generally, they kept things minimalistic and stock and standard. We got stock widgets. We got a bunch of home settings which are typical. We got app suggestions, notification dots, swipe access, home screen layout, and of course a bunch of wallpapers. Other than that, let's see what else. Of course, we do have notification dots. We have drop down section with notifications and quick settings, once again being kept stock except for the Moto Mode, which is an extra. And then we get to the actual settings. Here there is nothing out of the ordinary. There's display, battery, sound, storage, and security. Speaking of security, you can opt for the fingerprint scanner on this side here, which is not exactly comfy. You won't feel it by instinct as usual, and I have to say that it's rather slow. The accuracy is okay, but rather slow. You also have face unlock and smart lock, and there's that in the security section. I think that Motorola was uninspired. I would have preferred the backside fingerprint scanner, definitely not this one. People are used to having the power button here, not here, and not so small, so not a fortunate decision. As far as the apps are concerned, I counted them. There's 28 of them, and as you can see, it's stock stuff all the way. You got your camera, you got your Chrome, calculator, contacts, docs, there's Drive, there's also the Play Suite, there's Photos, Sheets, Slides, YouTube, and the only contribution that Motorola has made, basically, aside from the InstaShare printer and Moto Z Market, which are related to the modules, the only contribution that they actually made is Moto. And here you can add some stuff. You can swipe to shrink the screen. You get some special features like gestures, got the Moto Actions, lift to unlock, screenshot editor, one button navigation, so there's basically a single button here, and gestures that slightly resemble the ones of the iPhone 10. Pick up to stop ringing, night display, attentive display, and Moto display, some of them feeling a bit like the glance screen from the other Lumias. Okay, so that's about it phone wise. Apps wise, it's a modular phone, we never forget about that. You can see here the pins. Let's talk a bit about the modules. So first things first, these here are printed using a special printer that attaches to the back of the phone. So here we go, we have shots of that printer, we played with it, we attached it to the device, and let's see what came out of that experience. This is it. It's supposed to be a Polaroid InstaShare printer. It's going around for about $130 on Amazon. It was a blast to use it. Will print instantly your shots. They're kind of small, but people are nostalgic that way. Okay, so aside from that, we also have this one here. It's the bundled accessory, actually. It's the Motorola Moto Power Pack. It adds an extra 2200 mAh battery to your phone, which is nice to have. The battery was already kick-ass, and with this one you can actually add even more juice. Okay, and let's remove it. Luckily they always have a niche or a hole to start doing that. Okay, some more modules that were supplied to us. There's the world famous already Motorola Moto 360 camera. As the name says, you're going to be taking photos and video in 360 degrees. I've seen this going around for $200–300 online. I attached it like this, and you can actually go live and live stream in 360 degrees by installing a special app. Otherwise, you're going to be doing a lot of 360 degrees shots, which will be very nice to view with a VR headset. Okay, and last but never least is this big fellow here. It's the JBL Sound Boost 2nd generation. If you remember, we already tested the 1st generation. This one here comes with a kickstand. It's ideal to watch your movies, to listen to your music. You put it like this, and here you go. And I should say that the experience will easily go past 100 decibels, so neighbors, beware. Okay, so you saw the accessories. Oh my god, this is hard to remove. Here we go. Very powerful magnet, by the way. Okay, so back to the drawing board. Let's talk about it. It's time to talk about the pros and cons. So the Motorola Moto Z3 Play. Okay, so on the pro side, they have a slim phone for sure, made of premium materials, with a pretty bright screen, an okay performance in the mid-range section, stock Android Oreo, a very solid battery, nice acoustics. Bundle battery is always a plus, and okay acoustics, okay colors and bokeh when taking photos, and not a bad 4K video, to be honest. Those were actually the pros. On the con side, this is a white phone, not comfy for most people. It doesn't have stereo speakers, doesn't have IP68 certification. It has some dynamic range problems when taking photos. The sky is too white, poor details in the distance, no audio jack, and low light capture wasn't doing it for me. In the end, this is definitely, for me, an Asus Zenfone 5 rival, or maybe even a Asus Zenfone 5 killer. It can also kill the Xperia XA2, it can fight the Nokia 7 Plus, but it's inferior in the zoom department, low light department, but it has better bokeh. Now, it can also fight the Huawei Mate 20 Lite with lesser portrait shots. So that's about it. It's a rival for all of those phones, and you should take it into account if you're thinking of buying those phones. This is actually maybe worth your time, especially since you can add modules, and as time passes, some of them will become free, bundled, special offers, gifts from friends. So keep that in mind when buying this phone. You're also buying future gifts from friends. This is it from gsnro.com. This has been the review of the Motorola Moto Z3 Play. Bye bye.